All right, welcome back to the Playing Out Loud podcast. Today we have Lesley, Alicia, Ty. Did I get that all right?
Yes.
Perfect. And we have Karine Pierson. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Perfect. I continue to joke that everyone's a heavy hitter, but I feel like I need a new metaphor. So if you think of one today, let me know. But we have two entrepreneur performing artists, both women, and very excited to have you both here today. Let's jump in. There's some fist bumping happening, just so everyone's aware here. So let's jump in. Lesley, how long have you been in Traverse City? Are you a TC native?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
But I came here for high school.
Right.
So I went to
Interlochen.
Interlochen Arts Academy for high school.
Yay.
In the 90s, early
Yep.
90s.
Great-
Yeah.
great decade.
And then, so I'm from Colorado originally, but
Right.
I've been here. I lived here the most, you
Yeah.
know, of my entire life.
Yeah.
This place. So
Well, the reason I asked is because you've done so much and you are so, I feel like, deeply embedded in the community that you just seem like a native. Like you just, I run the show kind of thing. You have an incredible background. So you teach at Interlochen. So you went to Interlochen for high school, but kind of full circle, you teach there now. And you teach screenwriting and film critical studies. Are those like separate course tracks or just different types of classes?
basically, I teach in two departments. So
Okay.
screenwriting is out of the creative writing department, which is also where film used to be. So when
Okay.
I was a student in the 90s, there was no film department, but there was one sort of screenwriting film class.
Oh,
And so when I came back in 2002 to teach, I was teaching that one class.
okay.
And at that time I said, you know, man, it'd be a dream to start a film department here at Interlochen. And like the next year is finally when the Academy decided to do that.
Yay.
So the critical studies classes are in the film department. So they're
Perfect.
two different departments, but they're obviously really intertwined. And,
Yeah.
and my skill set just lends itself to be a part of both of those.
So you were part of that because you were the co-chair for the strategic planning committee for the development of the film and new media division.
Right.
So you have a big ol' hand in basically developing that entire curriculum, program, et cetera, at Interlochen.
Yes.
Wow. All right. Off the gate. Starting strong. You are also, and this is where I know a lot of our mutual friends know you very well, a co-founder and artistic director of Mashup Rock and Roll Musical, a nonprofit theater company here in town. Can you, for those that are not as familiar or haven't yet been to a Mashup show, tell us a little bit about Mashup.
Yeah, so Mashup, we actually began in 2013, and we just kind of started because we were wanting to do something different. My partner is a rock and roll musician. I also a classically trained pianist.
Wow.
But, you know, really kind of a rock and roll guy, and we met doing theater at the Old Town Playhouse.
Okay.
But we wanted to do something like what I'd seen done in Los Angeles, you know, the kind of really cool sort of mash-up-y kind of stuff where you're taking maybe Shakespeare and putting, you know, rock and roll music in it. I said, we should do something like that. So we just started sort of one show at a time. Let's try this out. Like, let's get the cheapest rental place
Yeah.
we can get. Let's invite all our friends to audition for a show they've never read, you know? And it just, everybody loved creating something from scratch, basically. And so we started doing it kind of once a year. And then during the pandemic, we said, hey, well, let's finally do the work to make this a nonprofit.
Wow.
So what we're really, again, about sort of remixing popular culture. So we're always taking kind of different source material, remixing it, creating something new. But at the heart of our stories is always sort of a story about inclusion or tolerance. You know, we really, our motto is embrace the weird. And the idea is we're all unique, we're all different, and we want to embrace that and really celebrate that.
Love it. 10 out of 10. And I think I know folks that I've met through actually sporting events and stuff who have been to Mashup. They're like, have you been to Mashup yet? I'm like, yeah. I mean, how did you get there? And they're like, oh, we heard about it. We went and we just loved it. It was so much fun. So I feel like Mashup has definitely gained a lot of momentum. Whether that started during pandemic or even pre-pandemic, it seems to have really rolled up into a big thing.
I personally love Mashup. Huge fan.
Awesome. And so you also, as you mentioned, you're a writer-director. You've done, how many original plays have you written?
I think I'm not quite to 10 yet, but we're getting close.
So
we're getting
close. Love it.
Plus the web series, and you know, we did these sort of Scooby. Maybe if we start to add those up, it gets up to
Yeah.
you know,
I'd count 'em
counting
all.
off my two hands.
Yeah, there we go. And the web series was called Bjork and Mindy, right?
Yeah.
That's fantastic. You've also taught screenwriting through NMC's extended education program, through Michigan Writers, Project Cinema Michigan, and of course, the Traverse City Film Festival. And you teach online screening for Constellation Learning.
Yes.
Is that still ongoing for you? Okay.
Yeah. And that's really fun because I'm connecting with students like in high schools across the country.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's fun. You also have flash fiction that's been published. What is flash fiction? Please school me.
Very, very short story.
Like 10 pages?
Oh, no.
or-
We're talking about like 2 pages.
2
maybe.
pages. Wow.
Sometimes even shorter than that. And they're sort of, sometimes you might call them actually prose poetry.
Okay.
Also sort of fits, right? But usually there's some kind of narrative component, but they're very, very short.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I had no idea that was the thing. Now I have another thing to add to my list of
They're fun
wants.
because they're so short, so they're actually really quick to read too.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
I know I read a novella earlier this summer, and it was like 110 pages. It was just, boom, got it done in a day kind of thing. Just sat at the beach and rolled it off. So I think that's fantastic. Another section of fiction we can all explore. You've been on a bunch of panels throughout. And as you mentioned, you spent some time in Los Angeles in film and television, the Hollywood machine. So you've done casting assistant, below the line agent, costume designer. You were co-writer for the pilot Devon's Chronicles, which was for Caspian Sea Entertainment. But that's also where you started getting active with performing, producing theater, and then really your teaching career, since like that kind of kicked off in LA.
Yep.
Did I miss anything? That's a lot, but I know what LA can do. So
Yeah, I mean, really working in the industry was difficult, right?
Yeah.
Like you just working with a lot of big egos, working with a lot of, and the grind of it.
Yeah.
And so sort of where I found my passion while I was just like working daily jobs, like starting as a PA up through being, again, like the below the line agent, right? Really working for a below the line agent and kind of learning that industry. I wasn't writing at all. I was just so exhausted, but I found my passion in theater there because you could come together and create stuff, right? And really feed off of each other.
Yep.
And then I started teaching because, again, that grind was so frustrating. And I felt like I'm not actually giving anything to the world. When I started theater there, I was assistant teaching like in a 3rd grade, but I also was doing like after school theater programs.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So I spent 6 years in LA, and I do feel like that time forces you to get really creative with how you want to be creative, which I think has applied to all of us in our current day, right?
Yeah.
Like we all have these unique businesses that didn't exist before, or thinking about things, building things based on time we've spent out of the city, out of town, out of state, all these other life experiences, and also just seeing that gap. And I think that's what LA did, at least a lot for me. It was just, like you have these experiences with these people that are experienced and educated in a very specific venue, right? The Hollywood machine is very unique, and to me, it's nowhere near live theater, like the mechanics of it all. But even just how you get things produced and all that other stuff. And live theater is less of a thing in LA. It's still present, but it's much less accessible, I guess I'd say. And everything is pay to play, right?
Yes.
Like if you're not SAG or something, like good luck.
It's like that with music too, in every major New York, Nashville, pay to play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I didn't do it.
Well, and what I found in theater in LA was, I mean, I loved it because it was a creative outlet, but there were a lot of people, again, they're trying to get into film and television. So they were doing it, and it wasn't that they weren't bringing great things to it, but it wasn't as important to them.
Yeah.
And so, like, I remember sometimes our audiences were smaller than the cast, or we had to cancel a show because there wasn't enough. And they'd be like, okay, cool, we can just go out, whatever. And I'm like, no, this is sad. Like, I'm here because I love doing this.
Yes.
So that was a big thing, too, coming here and just even doing community theater. I was like, everybody wants to be here. They're putting their all into it because this is something different than their day job.
Yeah. And it's the outlet, right? I think a lot of people know, like, there's Old Town Playhouse, and then there's Mashup.
Yeah.
And then there's Interlochen, but that is a big pay to play. And that's not for adults, really. So there's pockets missing and opportunities. And as the city has grown and shifted and people from larger cities come in, they're looking for more, which is great. But we also all have day jobs.
Yeah.
So, okay. And then I do want to wrap up because, as I mentioned, you've been an active member of OTP. You were Columbia in the Rocky Horror Picture Show, which is celebrating its 50th year.
Yeah.
Was that the first time they did Rocky?
That was the first time they did
That was a
Rocky.
big
And that was my
one.
first Old Town Playhouse show in 2006.
Wow, what a role to just
Yes.
like kick down the doors and say, "Hi, I'm Leslie." That's amazing. I mean, I'm like, wow, I didn't do that. We did a show together, Sweet Charity, back when I was like 20. I was a baby. And that was my first experience. And I was just jazz hands kind of experience. But you've also done a handful of others. So you've been in Rent, Cabaret, Little Shop of Horrors. Such a good one. We could all just like quartet this real quick, or trio. You've worked backstage, most recently in SpongeBob the Musical. I'm so sad I missed that. I was in Los Angeles, I think, when that. But
I got asked to be director, and I was like, I'm so busy.
Oh.
And I'm like, I should have just did it.
Yeah, but directing's a huge undertaking.
Music director, not director.
Yeah,
It's
but
still a huge undertaking.
yes. And speaking of directing, you directed Young Frankenstein and Title of Show. You've also served on the artistic committee, and you've been a guest instructor with Young Company, which makes sense because you have an incredible teaching background. I kind of just like, well, what's next, you know? Mount Everest sounds about next. Huge background. Okay, your turn.
I want to hear more about Leslie.
I know it's always it's my least favorite part too when I get to talk about myself. But our listeners do want to hear about you. So you are the owner and director of the Me Music or Michigan Music.
It's my music.
My music. I'm way off.
No,
my
you're
music,
fine.
but it's
It is confusing for Michigan music.
Yeah, yes. But My Michigan, oh my gosh. You are the owner and director of the
My music.
My Music Education. This will get edited. Or we'll just leave it in. Also the owner of Traverse City Violin Company. You are the only violin company in town in northern Michigan? In the Tri-County area? What?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, so that was one hole in the market that I just remember driving around like as a teenager and going, you know, I went to Interlochen too, but only to camps. I did end up on faculty there, but only for like a tiny little bit. I taught viola and I was a camp counselor. It was so fun. I remember like being in the staff orchestra, but I'm nowhere near your credentials, lady, but so amazing.
I cannot play violin or viola or any of those things.
Okay,
So
I can't
you have
act.
your amazing abilities.
Yes,
Trust me.
yes.
You have amazing abilities as well. I cannot act. And please repeat the original question.
Oh, no, you're
that's my
fine. No
brain right
question.
now.
No, you're good. So you're the owner and director of both of those.
Yes.
But you are a musical child prodigy and you've been playing violin since how young?
I asked my mom how old I was when I actually started, and she said 18 months.
18 months.
I was like, you are out of your mind.
I don't think I could even hold a spoon at 18 months. I don't know what I was doing at 18 months.
It's so funny. They say you're born to be who you are. So, like, I really lucked out. I had a caregiver. Her name was Suho. She was from China. They were immigrants from China. And she was a violin teacher. And they were escaping, like, the whole communist thing. Like, he was an engineer and she was a teacher. So they were considered intellectuals. So they were, like, escaping being sent to a concentration camp, basically. They emigrated to Canada. Then they came to the United States and they ended up being, like, right across the street. And my mom tells the story of, like, she first moved in and Sue knocked on her door and was like, I'm going to be your best friend. And they were. And she used to be my babysitter. And I just been going over there since I was 6 months old. My poor mom, she was a single mom and she was a teacher. Okay. So she didn't have a lot of time. But Sue was a stay-at-home mom and she just loved and nurtured me. And she kind of like, okay, so have you ever heard of the Suzuki method?
Yes.
Right. So she was a Suzuki teacher, and that's where Dr. Suzuki, love him, what a great figure. But his philosophy was that very young children could be trained to play the violin. And so that was kind of what she did with me. I have a whole thing on that. I think it's very special when you start with young children because they're learning language. And it's the same part of the brain that learns language as does music.
Really?
Yeah.
I guess that makes sense because when you're reading music, it is reading like a language, really. It's just symbols and all that other stuff, right?
Well, reading music and playing by ear, which is what Suzuki pretty much does with the little kids. They're too young. They're a little too young to recognize the symbols.
Yeah.
So those are two separate areas of the brain, actually.
Oh.
Yeah, because you're processing like symbols, and that's more like you're like reading a language. But I'm talking about like hearing the language.
Wow.
So, for example, if a family moves here from another country, you'll notice that the parents have an accent and the kids don't. That's because we have an area of our brain. This is like Noam Chomsky linguistics kind of stuff. There's an area of the brain called the language acquisition device. And that's the same area of the brain that music develops in. And it actually kind of shuts down at puberty.
Oh.
So that exposure to music at that age is just crucial. And I should probably explain what a child prodigy is. It's just, or a virtuoso, they call it. It's just someone who takes after it. And I've noticed this in my own students, is that if you have like musical genes, it's part nature and it's part nurture, really. But if you have musical genes in a musical family, that kid is already set up to, those are the kids that they call the naturals. That's what they mean by a virtuoso, like somebody who immediately takes to it and can do it very easily. Right. And so that's kind of like my history. Like I remember being on stage and like TV and stuff like at 4.
Oh, wow.
They're like, oh, this kid can play the violin, stick around. You know what I mean? So it's just, that's kind of I've always been on stage.
Wow.
That's kind of my thing. And I also forgot to mention, at the music store, there is a scholarship program as well.
Oh, great.
It's called the Northern Michigan Music Scholarships, or NOMI.
NOMI. Perfect. On brand.
Yeah.
You, at age 14, began teaching.
Yeah, because I'd been playing for so long. My mom was a teacher, and she had a kid in her class. It's so funny. I'm still friends with the mom. There was a kid in her class that needed violin lessons, and so I started teaching her at that age. Wow. And now at the music studio, I remember that experience really shaped me. When you teach, you know this.
Yes.
You learn as much from your students, if not more, than they're learning from you.
Yeah.
So I'm like, this is so crucial for young people to experience this. So at my store now, I actually have a student teaching program.
That's awesome.
And there's high school students there that have little baby. They have like 6-year-olds, you know, and they're so adorable. I'm like, this is so cute.
Aw.
And they have little
That's so
students,
cute.
and we mentor them and watch them and make sure they're, you know, they're saying all the right things, encouraging, and it's so amazing and sweet. And I'm like, wow, I did it.
Aww. That's got to be a great feeling to kind of see
really,
that full circle in a way.
You see your students succeed, and you're like, it's just, your heart grows a million sizes. It's just like the Grinch.
Amazing. You also hold an undergraduate degree from the University of Michigan, and you attended graduate school at Wayne State University. You've taught at inner city schools in Detroit, and you've toured around the country playing electric violin and singing. Was that like with a band, or was that?
So this is what happened to me, you guys. I always vacillate back and forth between like performing and teaching. Always, my whole life, right? You probably have the same situation. So when I was in high school, they're like, be an orchestra teacher. That you won't really get jobs if you're performing. You probably heard this spiel as well in the 90s, right? So I did everything they said. So I remember, including have a kid, right? So I'm like 24, 25 years old. I'm sitting in the house that I bought, right? I have my salaried job. I have a car, kid, went to grad school, got advanced degrees, whatever. And I'm like, wait a minute, something's missing. And I was so mad. I remember being like full of rage about it, because I was like, I did absolutely everything they said I should, and I'm miserable. What is going on? Now, I was teaching in inner city Detroit, and that is a murderous job, as you can imagine. So that's just my pattern. Like I go hard, and then I get burned out, and I'm like, okay, opposite thing. So then I was like, all right. At the time, I was trying to stick out that like 5-year thing that, oh, this is a fun one. They're like, we're going to pay off your student loans. And then when I called to collect, they're like, just kidding. Yeah. You teach orchestra, and that's only math and science teachers now.
Oh, wow.
So I was trying to stick that out. But anyway, long story short, I got really burned out. I was like, I'm going to join a band, and I did. And that was that. I started doing that so hard, like full time. Like at one point, my band, we played like every Wednesday through Sunday. They had paychecks. Like it was just ridiculous. We were always going to shows or you know, on tour or whatever.
Yeah. And you did that all over
it was like 12, 15 years, something like that.
Okay.
In the Detroit area. And then we went kind of like regionally, actually.
Yeah. Wow. I did a year of service as an AmeriCorps in Detroit with City Detroit, and then United Way. And so I remember being in some inner city schools in Detroit.
Yeah. I'm not from Detroit. I'm actually originally from Flint. I'm a Flintstone. I'm from, if you know where Flushing, Michigan is. It's so funny. It's like Flint, cornfields. Right? But my mom, being a teacher, my parents always came up here in the summer. So like I've been a snowbird since 1983. You know what I mean? And then my wife, Tiff Falls, you guys probably know her from the Alluvian. I was like, hey, babe, you want to move to Traverse City? And she's like, yes. And I was like, oh, yay, I can move to Traverse City now, finally. It was like always my dream to be here full time, and now I am.
Wow.
So I don't know if that makes me an invader or not, but
We'll keep you. I think we'll keep
my mom
you.
still lives on 12th Street. Like, I'm sort of a local.
That works. That
yeah,
works.
yeah, totally.
So upon your return to Traverse City, you were just teaching, right? You were teaching, was it Vogue music?
Yeah, well, we were performing as our original band is called the Lofties, so we were
Okay.
gigging out a lot as the Lofties, which is kind of what we like shrank our band in Detroit, and we're like, bye guys, we're going to Traverse City, and then we're going to just perform and write our stuff. And so I did that for a couple years, and then just post-pandemic, I ran into Rose Coe, the former owner of Vogue Music.
Okay.
Love her. And she was like, oh my gosh, girl, you got to come teach for me, blah, blah, blah. So I started doing that, and then I got really like popular. And I had like 75 students. It was crazy.
Yeah.
And then Rose was like, hey, I would like to change careers. She wants to be a traveling nurse. She's a nurse right now. She works at Munson. Love her. Very caring person, right? And she's like, I'm going to sell this business. And I was like, really? Why would you want to do that? I'm like, I'll take it. So that's kind of how that started. You know, and when you say buying a business, you're really just going into a bunch of debt. But so, you know, please don't think that I'm like rolling in it or anything. But I acquired that business, and it was just like 3 classrooms in our back unit of our building.
Mm-hmm.
But I went a little overboard. I went a little ambitious, and I expanded it to the front. So now there are 5 more classrooms. And there's TC Violin Co. as well, which is the retail with the violin shop and that's one thing I really saw was missing. I remember driving around up here as a teenager and going, where's the string shop? Interlochen's right there. What the heck? You know, and I also remember thinking, wow, it would be so cool to like teach up here full time. I love it here. You know what I mean? So it's just kind of crazy that like all those years ago that has now come to fruition a little bit.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah. Like there was no place for people to take their instruments. Do you know what I'm saying? They had to ship it to Grand Rapids or Flint. I don't think that's cool. I don't want to put my violin in the mail.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? That's my baby.
Yep.
I've had that since I was 12. It was made in 1900. It's not going in the mail.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I mean, I dropped my viola bow to get rehaired at TC Violin Co. And I, even just parting with it, knowing it was staying local, I was like, I've given my left arm away. And I feel super weird. It's the only bow I have. So I'm just like, hope it comes back, you know, and of course it came back and it's been great. But
that's awesome.
Yeah,
well, you can
get
always
attached.
take a loaner bow too.
You get attached to those
totally.
things. I want to jump in a little bit and talk a little bit about why you both like teaching so much. You do it from different aspects of it, but you are in this performing arts space where you could just be maybe performing all the time, right? Or something else. But I guess what drew you both to teaching?
Teaching's like not for everybody.
True.
Do you know what I'm saying? Some artists, I'm like, hey, you want to come teach at the studio? You'd be great. And they're like, no way. You know, so I think there's a little apprehension from people if you're like, oh, I don't like kids. Kids are people. And you know what? They appreciate you talking to them as such. They're like, thanks for having you. Like, you can tell because everybody's like, you know, Johnny, just go over there and sit in the corner and, oh, it's okay, Johnny. You know, like they're just kind of talking down to them all the time. And so then when you have a real conversation and you like take what they have to say seriously, like, oh, you went and played Pokemon Go? What character were you? You know what I mean? Like, you really form a bond with them. And I don't know, like I said, you learn more. I've just grown so much as a person and as a musician because I'm like, oh, crap, I better make sure my skills are right before I, you know, teach it to somebody else.
Yeah.
You know, so that's the thing.
And I think that's one of the things that, like, I think it also depends on your philosophy of teaching. And why I love teaching is because of that, is because I'm always learning. And so when I was getting my MFA, having to learn a little bit about the art of teaching. Kind of for the first time. I mean, my whole beginning of my teaching career, I had no education in education other than my mom is also a teacher and she was a learning specialist. And so she was always like my person to go to get advice, you know?
Yeah.
But, you know, when I
same.
started actually learning about teaching and I realized there is a philosophy of, and I know people like this who are like the sage on the stage, right? So the person who's, I am the expert. You are here to listen to me and do as I tell you and don't listen to anybody else. And I've encountered those people in my career as teachers. And that's not a teacher to me, right? That's a lecturer or that's, you know, and that's someone imparting like this information. But to
Yeah.
me, teaching is a collaboration,
Mhm.
and it's about curiosity and discovery,
Mhm.
you know, and finding those common moments and those things. And when you find a student who gets really excited about learning and about learning something and is bringing something to it. And I spent a year teaching 4th grade in Los Angeles. It was a private school, but it was a private school in a very diverse, it was the most diverse classroom I've ever taught in.
Wow, that's cool.
And it was like a lot of really working families who were working extra jobs to try to send their
Yeah.
kids to the school. And I had kids that didn't speak a lick of English. I had kids that, you know, like bring them all together to learn from each other, to support each other, and see that kid, like, you know, learn how to spell, get like 100% in a spelling test even,
Yeah.
right? It was like a really difficult year because of sort of the institution, but it was such a meaningful year because I really felt like this is what teaching is about,
Yeah.
right? And making those connections and like being vulnerable as a
Mhm.
teacher to really try to understand your students, where they're coming from, what excites them, right? And make
Yeah.
those connections with them.
Yeah.
I always knew I wanted to teach at some point in my
Yeah.
life,
Yeah.
like from childhood, even though I had big dreams about wanted to win Oscars and all this stuff.
Right, right. Yep.
I also had this notion that I definitely want to teach. And I think it's just kept me feeling more alive and more connected and continue to learn and continue to push myself. And it, especially teaching at Interlochen or really teaching the arts in general, when you're an artist, for me, it actually makes me feel more creative.
Mm.
When I'm doing another day job that is not teaching, when I've done that, it just kind of kills my soul.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, as a person who has a 9 to 5 that makes the money and pays the bills, but is not fulfilling in some way, all the time that I spent outside of that is dedicated to filling my cup
yeah.
in that regard.
Yeah.
And I think for me, and I don't know if this resonates with you all at all, but when I did I call it the Midwest Shuffle, where it's like you do well in high school, you get into a college, you major in something practical, you get a job out of college in that field, you date, you find your person, you, I don't know, get a dog, get married, buy a house, you do the Midwest Shuffle.
The Midwest Shuffle.
And for a lot of people, maybe that works. But for me, that didn't. And I realized in college it didn't, because for the first 3 years, I was like, I'll do PR and advertising because that's like writing and, I don't know, marketing and communication. And I think at one point I wanted to be a brain surgeon because I was like, I want to help people. And I was like, I also hate chemistry, so that's not going to work. But it took a few years and a pretty big kind of nudge from a theater director who saw me in a show and was like, you should come do theater. And I was like, I've been fighting being a theater major for so long. And then he just showed up out of nowhere. I had no idea. It was Randy Wyatt from Aquinas College. I had no idea who he was. He just showed up and was like, here's my card. And I was like, Aquinas College, like the private Catholic school? I'm not Catholic. Like, I have so many questions.
Yeah.
And it turned out to be the best thing because we did new works. We didn't do the Annies and et cetera. It was all new works. We had playwrights flying.
Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah, so it's like that inspired my true desire of like, let's do original work.
Oh, yeah.
And then writing, and we had improv and that kind of stuff. So I think all that to say that like the paths that we go on through different people who educate us help us reflect on that and help us figure out like what does fill our cup. And then in an ideal world, you get paid to do what you love. And I think that's a big struggle for a lot of creatives too, because we just see like the Hollywood machine and like, that's how I make money and blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, you don't need to. You can have your own business. And maybe it doesn't afford you a big, gold, glamorous life, but that's not really what we're doing anyway, right? We need to create. And we need to create with young people. We need to create with people our age or people older. We need to constantly be learning and expressing and being vulnerable and just being human, at the end of the day. So
yeah, everybody has that creative need. It's deeper, obviously, in some than others. And that's really interesting, too, what you said about the teaching philosophy, because I kind of did that, too. Like, that was my whole thing at Wayne State was grad school, and it was, like, updating my teacher certs, and it was all these, like, teacher education. So you get all that philosophy, and then you go into the field, and that's really where it clicks. That what do they call that? What's that word? Praxis? Theory and practice together. Yeah. I really look up to a lot of different, like, I think I mentioned Dr. Suzuki, like his philosophy, like every child is talented. And that's kind of how I look at it. Like everybody has an innate creativity in them. What that looks like, you know, if someone's an engineer or something, maybe that looks like they're getting patents and they're designing things or whatever. But or somebody, even someone who doesn't work and maybe just cares for their children, is being creative in their way. They're like making crafts with them. They're making meals for them. And it's funny because as an artist, you get this like little bit of stuck ego. Sometimes you're like, well, I'm not writing my great. You know, like as a musician, we're like, I'm not writing and recording my album right now. What's wrong with me? And it's like, you know what? I am actually creating something amazing in the community that's helping a lot of people. And it's funny about the arts too, because it's hard to define the benefit, but clearly everyone is familiar with how arts make us feel. And, you know, as we saw in the pandemic, a lot of people turned to it.
Yeah.
So that's what's challenging, I think, about being in this field is like, obviously it's valuable, but we can't put a value necessarily on it.
Yeah.
That's monetary.
It's intangible. It's truly intangible. I want to segue a little bit to diving into your process, Lesley, for writing shows for Mashup. I think if you're able to
I
pull,
want to know about this too.
Take us behind the curtain and see what the real wizard does. I think we just anything you can share about what that process of creating those shows looks like for you all.
Yeah, I mean, like I do very specific types of shows, right? Mashup rock and roll musical means like they're a mashup of different source material. They have rock and roll or, you know, popular music components, and obviously they're musicals. But I also, like, I very much am a believer that everything is a remix because we as human beings take in everything. We're influenced by all these different things. And so whatever we're creating is a mashup of all of our experiences, right? But specifically for the shows that I do, like there's a huge research component, you know, obviously I'm looking at the source material. So one of our shows, Look Who's Talking Heads.
Okay.
So obviously I was watching Look Who's Talking. That was sort of our basic source material. But I also was looking at other films from that time period that were exploring parent-child dynamics and, you know, what it means to be a parent. So it was like Baby Boom, Parenthood, Mr. Mom. So I'm like, you know, watching all those. And so I'm deciding what am I... Yeah, I didn't end up pulling from that one. The four main one were those ones, but that is a good one. But it was pulling the elements from those. So it's a lot of like outlining and kind of like, what do I want to pull? And like, what do I want to pull directly? And what am I going to sort of update? Like, I'm going to make the Baby Boom character. Well, she's actually, you know, a lesbian and she has a wife and, you know, a female partner instead. Yeah. So like, what am I going to make like more contemporary and kind of fit with what we're trying to say? Yeah. Which was really that like a family doesn't look like one thing. Right. You know, it's not just that traditional nuclear family. It can look a lot of different ways. And then I'm obviously the music component. So it's like listening to as much Talking Heads as possible. I'm always trying to find like, what are the deep cuts that I love it when actually, like, the band was like, I've never heard this song before. And I'm like, haha, yes, I found this great Talking Heads song that you hadn't heard of. Yeah. So it's listening to a lot. But then how do those tell the story? Some of them are obvious, like once in a lifetime for when the sperm are, you know, traveling to try to find the egg. You know, gosh. Like some of them make sense.
Funny.
That part, we were dying laughing. Dying.
That does make sense. That is biologically factual.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, it's like finding those really great moments of like, oh, this, you know, this does this great thing and tells the story in this great way. And sometimes it's rewriting lyrics also to kind of fit. And sometimes I have to call in an assist. So for that show, because I wanted to take a song and make it about her giving birth, I actually have a friend who's OBGYN. And so I called her. I was like, Gretchen, can you rewrite the lyrics to this song for me to like accurately depict sort of like what that might be like?
Yeah.
So
That's amazing.
So it's like knowing the right people, right?
Yeah, right.
And giving her credit, of course. And then it's thinking about the cast, because I always have my cast in mind when I'm writing too. So even if I have sort of like the main storyline, I'm thinking, okay, who is playing these roles and what do I know they can do? So I knew my lead actor for James, which was the John Travolta character. And he's such a movie buff. So I was like, I have this wacky idea. What if every time we see him in every scene, he's dressed like a different iconic John Travolta character?
Oh my gosh.
So that's like this wholly other like wacky layer. But I was like, I think he'd really be into this as a performer. And he was like, yes. So we integrated that.
Fantastic. So is he like Danny Zuko?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
I
my
mean,
gosh.
we did Saturday Night Fever.
Okay.
We did Grease, Urban Cowboy. But of course,
Wow.
and I think the audience started to catch on when, of course, it was Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, wigs.
How do ya?
And then, so I know some of the audience too then was like, are they going to do Hairspray? Are they going to do Hairspray? And yes, we did Hairspray.
That's
Hilarious.
so exciting. Gosh, now I wish I could go back in time and see that one.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. You're in the works on something right now for the next show. Will that be a 2026 show?
Yeah, we're doing a show actually January 2026.
Okay.
And this is the remount. So now we have enough material that we're sort of going back and forth between doing a new show
Okay.
and remounting something.
Okay.
And so we have the show. It's A Little Prince and the Man from Mars.
Oh, okay.
It's sort of it's kind of a weird one in a different way. So it's about a group of, we call them castaways, who after a very catastrophic, maybe Civil War-esque sort of event,
Okay.
they are kind of hiding out. And to pass the time, they tell the stories of the Little Prince and the Man from Mars. So it's pulling from the novella, The Little Prince, Le
Yeah.
Petit Prince. It's pulling from the David Bowie movie, A Man Who Fell to Earth.
Mm.
And then, of course, it's Prince and Bowie music. But it's
Amazing.
also really kind of a story about communication and about how the difference between listening and hearing,
Okay.
and when communication breaks down and sort of the messiness that can happen and kind of what can lead up to something that could,
Yeah.
divide the world,
Yep,
I guess to
yep,
say, right?
yep.
Divide people.
Yeah.
It still has silliness and fun, but it also sort of has this sort of more serious undercurrent to it.
Yeah.
I'm in the process right now of kind of seeing what kind of revisions I want to do. It was done in 2018.
Okay.
So what kind of things, and also because my cast will be slightly different. So
Okay.
I also have to look at that as well.
Yeah. Exciting things. I know we
Yeah.
talked about that
Yeah.
before we got on the mic, but
I'm so excited for that. I love David Bowie. We're doing a David Bowie song in adult rock band class right now.
Nice.
Oh.
Yeah, it's called Moon Age Daydream. And I just like his lyrics and everything are just so
Yeah.
creative. He was like the original, like, I don't care what you think of me.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
going to be me. I mean, there's a lot of artists, but like in terms of, like to bring up the queer sphere, like he was just like, oh, you think this about me? So what?
Yeah.
don't
I mean,
care.
as
I'm
I
gonna
love
I'm going to do my thing.
Yeah.
Prince and Bowie, were
Yeah,
definitely just
yeah.
like unapologetically, this is who I am.
Yeah.
Right. And so, yeah, they're both sort of alien beings that are just
Yeah.
like, they're more than just made of the earth. They
Yeah.
were both.
Totally. He said he was a starseed and
Yeah.
all this. And I was like, yeah, maybe he's onto something.
Yeah. I love that. We're clearly going to have to mark our calendars for that. I want to talk a little bit about what you both think are challenges about performing arts in Northern Michigan. We have a pretty unique community, I feel like. As a TC native growing up here, it's changed a bit, but it also hasn't changed
Totally.
in some ways, right? And I think we've all seen in the last many years, too, that there's goodness in the community. There's strength in small business. There's strength in entrepreneurs, but there's also lots of expenses. And since the pandemic, there's been quite a infusion of new folks coming in, whether it's from big cities or just finally saying, let's just give Traverse City a full-time. We have a cottage, but let's do this full-time kind
Yeah.
of thing. That creates a really interesting kaleidoscope, I think, effect of what people see and what they experience. And as business owners, but also performing artists, I'm just kind of curious what your thoughts are. Like, what do you think is the most challenging part of performing arts in Northern Michigan, whether it's through your business or just generally speaking?
As a bricks and mortar business owner, a lot of entrepreneurs will come up here and say, there's no competition. I'm like the only person. That's true to some degree, because I've noticed, like, I have no problem getting new students. Like, people just Google guitar lessons, violin lessons, or whatever in Traverse City, voice lessons in Traverse City, and they end up coming to us. What I've noticed, they're like, Traverse City is the Paris of Midwest. I'm like, you guys have clearly never been to Paris. But, there's a lot of culture here that wasn't here before. And so I think it makes it easier for me. But we just opened a location in Cadillac.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. Congratulations.
It is getting off to a bit of a bumpy start.
Okay.
There are not as many students as we thought
Okay.
that there would be, because they're like, there's such a need in this area. They have an orchestra program. Like, what's the deal? And what I've realized is that I'm actually going in and I'm changing the culture. It almost involves changing the culture in an area like Cadillac, or just like a surrounding area that's very, very rural. And that's part of my mission, to bring the music and the accessibility, like especially the scholarship program. It's our mission to get out to those areas that, like, we do work on Beaver Island,
Okay.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, we're trying to get to the places that don't have access.
Yeah.
So Cadillac was like, yes, yes. But what I've noticed, and I worked with this in Detroit, in any area that's not like, yes, the arts are important. I think it's seen as an affluent thing, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So we're working very hard to be like, no, this is normal. People your kids need the arts. You know, we have a scholarship to support. If it's too much, like, we're here for you. And it's not at all like Traverse City. So,
Interesting.
Yeah. So I think that is very interesting. There's also a little bit of, I think, I've noticed this in funding. Like, my scholarship program's not really funded that great. Unless you really, like, know someone, like, from growing up here. Getting into that network of philanthropists and stuff is really really challenging. It's very, you know what I'm saying? And I'm so grateful and lucky that we do have supporters that are amazing. I'm not allowed to name them. They want to remain anonymous. I want to protect that and respect that, but I do have some amazing support that is just unbelievable. You can look on our website, by the way, if you want to see who I'm allowed to, who does support us, then I'm allowed to, like, they're proudly listed on our website. Like, Oriana helps us out, like, all kinds of, it's like Grand Traverse Regional Community Foundation. Yeah, they're very helpful. The Rotary, all that, like Begonia Foundation, they're amazing. All those places that are just helping me. But in trying to expand, like, because I'm just nowhere near where I need to be for annual cost. When I try to expand, I've noticed that it's challenging.
It's a push.
So I'm like, whatever, I'm just going to be myself and someone will come along and love what I'm doing. It's like putting that trust out there. You're going to be okay.
Yeah.
You know?
It's a worthy fight and it's a good fight.
Yeah.
And at the end, like, you do win those worthy fights. You know what I mean?
It
might be rough, but
at the end of the day, the work is the work, and you know the work that you're doing is important whether or not it's getting monetarily compensated.
Exactly.
You know, so as an artist, like, that's a whole. It was huge for me to have that epiphany, like, wow, this is so valuable, and I don't really care if I can pay my bills or not.
Yeah,
like, it's fine.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you really touched on two of the big things there, right? I mean, I think that there's definitely this sense of there's so many great arts things happening in Traverse City, but not all of it is accessible, right? Is accessible to the surrounding community. And so there's this sense of like, well, that's for the people that have all the money, or that's for people, you know, who can afford to live there. And so trying to find ways to make it accessible and to say, hey, we welcome you. We want you here. So one of the things we did when we became a nonprofit is to say, we're always going to have a pay what you can performance in our run. And that's really hard because it makes things really tight because sometimes we hardly bring in anything, but it's worth it if the people who can bring their family because they only have to pay $5 a person. Yeah. That's important to me that those people get to do that. Yeah. And I think a lot of organizations are doing really great stuff. I see more and more free things happening at Interlochen. Okay. And them really trying to invite the community or go out to the community and provide, again, accessible and free. And that's super important. I love that, like, Traverse City Dance Company, right? That they want it to be free, right? Yeah. Their shows for their regular summer season, they go out to these places and it just come and see it. Yeah. And so I think we need to keep doing that. But it's really hard because then how do you fund it? Yeah. And you're absolutely right. Like, all of the organizations you named also support us. And they're so amazing. But there are a lot of people who could do more support and trying to get their attention and kind of get them to come and understand what we do. And I don't, like, my nonprofit is, I do 90% of the work and I don't get paid for any of that. We don't have a single employee. We give artist stipends and we pay out quite a lot over the year, you know, to our artists and designers. They still have day jobs. Yeah. But we pay them something. But it is really, really hard and exhausting. And, you know, I am very grateful. I have some really great supporters that help me with grant writing and stuff. But trying to, especially knowing how much Traverse City and the area has grown and that you have people that do have second homes. Yep. But trying to, you know, reach them and, you know, talk to them about why investing in these kind of things is important.
Yeah. And also why not just investing for the sake of, like, having a good cultural experience, but like how it helps make them part of the community that they've decided to invest their time, energy, money, etc. into. I think there's always like people that move to a new city and they're like, well, it's not like the warm fuzzy thing I thought it was. It's like, well, how are you being a part of the community? You know, what have you decided to jump into, kind of thing? Like, are you volunteering anywhere? Are you going out? Are you saying hi to a few people? You know, like, how is that looking for you? And I think that's where the arts always stands out, because we are more than happy to talk to you. As performing arts. We're like, hello, yes, thank you. It's kind of thing. And so it's an easy way for people to get in and start to feel embedded in a new community to themselves. But
yeah. And a big part of also like who we are as a theater company is we want our audience to feel like they are included in the show. Like we continue to produce intimate theater where we're in the middle of the audience. A lot of our entrances and exits, we invite them to come on stage and, dance with us in places, and always incorporate some way to bring willing volunteers, of course.
Yeah.
But we want them to feel like they are part of the experience. And I'm always amazed at the number of people that give us money. They can only give us $10. But they give us money and they're like, I wish I could give you more. And I'm like, no, you've given, it's amazing.
Yep. You've given what you can, which is all anybody can ask. Whether you're performing or donating or volunteering, like that's it, you know?
Yeah, your guys' shows are... I've been lucky enough to kind of observe it from the sound booth and see all the work that you guys are kind of doing. It's so cool to watch. High five.
Fist bumps and high fives today. So looking to wrap up here, based on your life experiences and kind of what you've learned throughout those and how they've brought you to where you are today, what of those pieces, those lessons, those takeaways, whatever you have, like what of those would you try to impart on somebody else, whether that's a young person or an adult who's just like, I am miserable here and I got to make a change, and, whatever that is. Yeah, just kind of curious, like where life has brought you and those lessons, how you might impart some of that wisdom to somebody who's looking for a change or looking for some insight.
I feel like I want Lesley to go first.
That's fine. Happy to. I think it would be pulling from my experience of thinking that my life was going to go one way, or wishing it was going to go one way, right? Which is getting into Hollywood and having my movies made and all that. And that didn't happen, right? I worked in the industry and I had great experiences, but that didn't happen. But I realized, like in high school, for a destiny and literature class, we all had to write our autobiographies and we couldn't die before we were like 65. So I went back when I was teaching at Interlochen to look at this document that I'd written, at 17 years old, imagining the rest of my life.
Adorable.
And I was like, well, now wait a minute. I am creating stories that I write, right? And I'm a part of, and I get to perform, and they make me happy.
Yeah.
And they make other people happy.
Yeah.
Like I actually am doing the thing. It doesn't look like what I thought it looked like,
Yep.
So, thinking about that and what I hope, what I talk to my students about, because my students, they all want to be filmmakers.
Yeah.
They're not all going to be filmmakers, right? Or at least not necessarily make all their money on that, right?
Sure.
But what are the things that do make you excited, passionate, right? And success doesn't have to look like what other people tell you success looks like.
Exactly.
You know, what makes you happy and fulfilled, right? And keeps you waking up each day excited to do whatever you're going to do.
Yeah.
And I think you have to redefine what success means. And success should be equal to your happiness and your fulfillment.
I feel that so hard because it's like you think it's going to be a certain way, and it, it can just look so different from the time, you were 17. So yeah, you have to maintain that flexibility. It's just so funny. People are like, oh, your life is so cool. And you're like, I didn't do that. I never got my Oscar. I never won my Grammy. You know what I'm saying? And you're sitting here ripping on yourself, and it's like, why? This is awesome.
Yeah.
So I think overachievers have this problem too. They're like, I still haven't done this. And it's like, you got to get out of that mode. It's a matter of being grateful for what you already have and realizing that you are enough and what you have is enough.
Yeah.
Society's like, no, you must want more. And it's like, wait a minute, I'm not buying into that. I almost feel like it's a consumerism of our own lives. That's crazy. But what I wish my students knew it's interesting to watch all ages struggle.
Mm-hmm.
Adults will especially struggle.
Mm-hmm.
It's in my plans to write a book about this because I really feel compelled to help beginner music people because it's such a crucial time.
Mm-hmm.
You either do it or you don't. You can get really frustrated, especially, like I said, adults, because they're competent at everything else. Kids are sponges. They get frustrated too. But what I want to tell people is all the little things add up.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You're like looking at this. I want to play in the symphony. I have this a student right now. He's like, I'm going to play in the symphony. I'm like, that's great. How about you start practicing?
Yeah, right.
Like you could start with practicing 10 minutes a day. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like those
Yeah.
little micro habits.
Mm-hmm.
If you're rehearsing a show, you know this. And you're like, oh, that rehearsal didn't go great. But you notice the next rehearsal, it's better.
Mm-hmm.
So even though you feel like a failure, you're only doing these tiny things. Those will add up into a huge win. So it's like a matter of getting through that area of frustration and still continuing to have faith and put effort towards something is what is the crux of developing a new skill or anything.
Yeah. And probably really being successful at anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Successful meaning like
Yeah.
I've learned a new thing.
Or like I started going to the gym and I'm more fit or whatever. Like just those little wins, like I made it to the gym today,
Mm-hmm.
kind of, or I practiced for 5 minutes, whatever. Like those little micro breakthroughs, those add up into one day. Your thing that you want will suddenly appear, but it's
Yeah.
not sudden. Success is never overnight.
Right.
It's always like I've been working at this little by little for all these years and now it's here.
Yep. Have you read Stephen Pressfield's book, The War of Art?
Oh, that is my jam.
Because I feel like what you were talking about
Yeah.
is just the resistance, right? The daily
Totally.
the game you sort of play with yourself of like 10 minutes a day. Like I play viola and I'm like, my thing is like I need to do 15 to 20 because now I'm in an orchestra and chamber. So it's twice as much as I was anticipating.
Yeah.
So I need to put a little bit of muscle work into that, knowing that my end goal is a concert in early December, right? So 20 minutes a day, right?
Yeah.
It's the same with stand-up comedy. Stand-up comedy is you write every day. That's how you bring home the bacon. It's just you
Write
write
some
every day.
jokes.
You write some jokes every day. And you get up and you do the open mic. And it doesn't matter if you bomb. It doesn't matter if you wrote something that you're like, oh, that did not come off how I want. Like, that's part of the humanness of it and being the vulnerability and all those things. But showing up for yourself and allowing yourself to acknowledge, like, this isn't what I thought it was going to be.
Right.
But man, is it great,
Right.
you know?
And what you take and you learn from that. And I think
Yeah.
too, like the daily practice and like building those habits is so important, but you also have to like make that commitment for that end thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the thing
The
about
goal.
our first show. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, well, we're going to put money towards a venue for these dates. So we have to make it happen. And I think sometimes people are like, well, I'm going to wait until I'm in the right place, right? I'm going to keep doing this. So you have to sort of balance that, like, I'm building to being like, I'm going to make this goal and I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to put a deadline on myself.
Yep.
And whether it goes well or doesn't go well, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
if you just keep waiting for the right circumstances, it'll never happen too.
Yep. The discipline is the real winner. Motivation rarely exists. So you have to be disciplined
Yeah.
to show up for yourself and to show up for the thing that you are trying to figure out if that's your thing or not. So,
It's a double-edged sword too, because I always say if you're not absolutely in love with something, why are you doing it? And I ask this to my friends that they're like 9-to-5ers. Why are you doing that? You hate it so much. Why are you doing it to yourself? Really?
yeah.
And that's a whole other thing. So it's like this delicate balance of the definition of discipline is doing something when you don't want to do it. The other day, my wife and I were like, we do not want to go downstairs. We have a little gym in our basement. We do not want to do it right now. But we went and made ourselves do it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? But at what point does that become detrimental? We don't realize what miracles we are as artists.
Mm-hmm.
Like just because we've been through that process and come out on the other side. But a lot of people never make it,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And you got to watch that. Like, oh, great, I'm doing 15 minutes. Now I got to do 20. Now I got to do 25. You know,
You got to be careful with that.
That's
yeah.
that philosophy. Congratulate yourself for the 10 minutes that
Right.
you did
Yeah,
do.
exactly.
You know,
High five, you did it.
Yeah.
Check the box, feel
Yeah,
good,
totally.
give yourself a gold sticker, call it a day.
that's right.
All right. Well, thank you. So we are at the fun part I call rapid fire. So we have 5 questions, the same questions for both of you. And do your best to just whatever comes to your head. You don't have to explain it. You don't have to give us
Stream
background
of
if you don't want to.
consciousness.
Yeah, I trust you both to say good things. So
Not always. No, I'm just kidding.
we had the comedians on last week, so don't worry about it.
Oh,
All right, I'll start with you. So, favorite instrument,
The cello.
favorite place to perform.
This is really biased, but the Alluvian.
Great. Do you have a dream show to be a part of?
Eventually, we're recording our album right now, and we're going to tour probably in the U.S., but eventually I'd like to go back to Europe and tour there
Great.
because that was amazing.
Yep. Favorite performance ritual, like beforehand.
Oh, you don't want to know.
All right.
It involves relaxing,
Great.
and that's all I'm going to say.
That sounds great. Favorite thing to do in Michigan outside of the performing arts?
Supping down the river.
All right.
Stand-up paddleboard.
Got it.
You know,
I was like,
yes.
I know what this is.
Yes. Yes, you do.
All right. And favorite instrument?
Guitar.
Favorite place to perform?
The Match, which I didn't get to talk about today, but
the match is
is
where
our
y'all
brand
perform.
new small theater
Yay.
space.
Yes.
So getting to perform there for the first time
Yes.
this September was amazing.
Epic.
Hands
Yeah.
out. And it's
So
used by other
amazing.
community groups
What
too.
that is the hope.
Which is
Yeah,
great.
that's what we're trying to do is give more accessibility to intimate theater productions. Yeah, and to local playwrights and local
Yeah.
artists, and we can do music stuff there too, and comedy and improv and all
Yeah.
that.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Dream performance show.
Oh, I mean, I feel like each new one is the dream performance show. Well, I mean, I'll tell you my retirement show, which is I want to do the Rocky Horror Show again,
Yes.
but I want to do it set in a retirement home. All the
Oh my
cast
God.
is like over 65.
Yes.
I'll be 70 and playing Columbia once again.
Yes.
And the only young person will be Dr. Scott, played by like one of the nurses.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's my
Beautiful.
Love it.
end of my career dream show.
I love it. Favorite performance ritual.
We gather as a cast together, and my partner does this lovely exercise where we're breathing together, and we take a ball of light and we zap our anxieties into it, and we set it aside for the show. So it's a
Love
lovely
it.
thing that he started, and yeah, it's
Oh,
fun.
that is a good
Great.
one.
Yeah.
Favorite thing to do in Michigan outside of the performing arts.
I'm not really a sports person, but I do love to get out with my dogs, especially just like taking the dogs for a nice long walk, whether it's like snowy and gross or whether it's beautiful. There's just so much joy in watching them interact with nature. So if it's like been really gross and I'm like, ugh, like getting out with them is always really fun.
Fun.
Yeah.
Well, thank you both so much for coming. It's been wonderful. I think you've educated us, all of our listeners, on so many things today. Thank you both for coming.
Thank you for doing
Thank
this.
you.
This is amazing. High five to you.
Yes. All right.